Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. We're going to be cracking the code on why people buy, consumer psychology.
Yeah, it's a fascinating area.
It really is. And today, our guide is Martin Lindstrom's Buyology, Truth and Lies About Why We Buy.
Great book.
Have you read it?
Oh, yeah, cover to cover. A couple of times, actually.
So what's the main takeaway? What makes it so special?
Well, Lindstrom kind of throws out the old marketing playbook, like the focus groups, the surveys.
Yeah.
He goes straight to the source, the brain.
Wow. So instead of asking people why they buy, he's actually looking at what's happening in their brains while they're buying.
Exactly. Traditional marketing, it relies on what people say they do, but biology digs into what they actually do, subconsciously.
That's amazing. Okay, so how does he get this information?
Neuromarketing. It's like being able to see which parts of someone's brain light up when they see a product.
No way.
Yeah, like fMRI, it tracks blood flow to show brain activity.
Okay, so that's for, the conscious thoughts, right?
Mhm.
But what about the stuff we're not even aware of?
For that, he uses SST. It measures those lightning-fast brain responses, the ones we don't even realize are happening.
So we're talking about going beyond those surface-level answers people give in surveys and getting to the core of their desires.
Exactly. And what Lindstrom found is that those gut reactions, those subconscious impulses, they're often far more powerful than any logical reason we might come up with.
For a marketer, that's like having superpowers.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's talk about something that I think we've all experienced. Product placement. I see brands everywhere, but I can rarely remember them afterward. Does it actually work?
You're not alone. Lindstrom found that just because you see a brand doesn't mean you'll remember it, let alone buy it.
Makes sense, but then why do companies spend so much on it?
Well, it can be effective if it's done right. Remember that study in the book about Singular Wireless sponsoring American Idol?
Vaguely.
They were like the big sponsor, their logo was everywhere.
Yeah.
But viewers remembered Coca-Cola more clearly.
Wait, Coca-Cola? I thought they were just sipping their drinks in the background.
Exactly, and that's the key. Coca-Cola was cleverly woven into the narrative. Those judges sipping their Cokes became part of the show. It wasn't just passive exposure, it was an experience.
Ah, so for product placement to really work, it has to be part of the story.
100%. It can't just be an afterthought.
So it's not enough to just plaster your logo everywhere?
Nope, you got to make it a seamless part of the experience.
Okay, I love that. But sometimes, don't you feel like you buy the same things over and over again, like almost ritualistically?
Totally. Like my morning coffee, it's the same routine every day.
Exactly. And biology really digs into the power of those rituals, which is fascinating for marketers.
Oh yeah, because these little rituals, they create subconscious connections with a brand.
Give me an example.
Think about the Corona beer ritual.
Adding the lime.
Yeah, that wasn't some long-standing tradition. It was a marketing invention. But it worked. Enhanced the sensory experience, boosted sales.
So you're telling me that if I can get someone to associate a specific action with my product, like adding a lime to a beer, I can increase sales.
You got it. It's all about creating an experience around your product.
That is brilliant and something I'm definitely adding to my marketing to-do list. Now, I can't help but think about all those times I've walked into a store and been completely won over by the smell or the music.
Sensory branding. And it's way more powerful than people realize.
Okay, so how does it work?
Well, Lindstrom talks about this study where a floral scent in a shoe store actually led customers to buy more expensive shoes.
No way. Just because of a smell.
The scent triggered a subconscious association with luxury, and they weren't even aware of why they were spending more.
Wow. That's both amazing and a little scary. What about music?
Music's huge. Like, have you ever noticed how some stores have that slower, more mellow music playing?
Yeah, totally.
Well, Lindstrom says that encourages customers to browse longer and buy more.
Really? So I should be swapping out my up-tempo playlist for something a little more subdued.
It's worth considering. Muzak, that company that designs background music for businesses,
Yeah.
they have done the research. The right music can definitely influence spending. It's crazy, right? Like you can create a whole atmosphere just with sound, with scent. It's wild.
Seriously. It's like subliminal messaging for the senses. Okay, so we've talked about how our senses can be manipulated, but what about our brains? What's going on up there that makes us want to buy things?
Well, ever heard of mirror neurons?
I feel like I have, but remind me.
They're the reason you can't help but smile when you see someone else grinning ear to ear, like they won the lottery or something.
Oh, right, right. It's like we're wired to mimic each other.
Exactly. They're the monkey do neurons. They fire not only when we do something, but when we see someone else doing it too.
Interesting. So how does that play into like marketing and advertising?
Well, Lindstrom, he talks about this study with monkeys and ice cream cones.
Okay.
So when one monkey saw another monkey enjoying this ice cream cone, the same part of its brain lit up as if it were eating the ice cream cone.
Whoa. So even just watching someone else experience something, our brains are like, I want that.
Exactly. Like, picture this. You're watching a car commercial, right?
Okay.
And it shows someone cruising down the coast in this sleek, luxurious car.
Yeah.
Even if you weren't even thinking about buying a new car,
Right.
your brain is suddenly like, road trip, I need a new car.
Because you're seeing someone else enjoy it and your mirror neurons are firing.
Bingo, it's like you're experiencing the product vicariously.
That's both fascinating and a little bit scary. Like how much of our decision-making is actually our own?
Right. It makes you wonder.
Okay, so we've got our senses, we've got our mirror neurons. What else are these sneaky marketers using to influence us?
How about just the concept of cool?
Cool.
Yeah. It's hard to define, but we all know it when we see it. Lindstrom argues that coolness taps into our desires for status, for belonging, even a little bit of rebellion.
Okay, that makes sense. But how do you actually market cool?
Well, think about a brand like Abercrombie and Fitch.
Okay.
Yeah. They mastered the art of cool marketing. They use images of cool people, often young and attractive,
Right.
and they create that club-like atmosphere in their stores.
Yeah, with the dim lighting and the loud music.
Exactly. It's all very intentional. They're playing on that very human desire, especially for young people, to be part of the in crowd.
I'll admit, their marketing worked on me. But what about fear? Does that work in advertising or does it just scare people away?
Oh, fear is definitely a powerful motivator,
Right.
but it's a total double-edged sword.
How so?
Well, on the one hand, it triggers our survival instincts, like
Yeah.
those hard-hitting anti-smoking ads.
Yeah, those are tough to watch.
See? Powerful imagery. But if you use too much fear, people will just tune it out.
Right, you become desensitized.
Exactly. Plus, you don't want to accidentally associate your brand with something negative.
Makes sense.
Lindstrom actually talked about this one study where researchers, they showed people a picture of a car accident. Oh, God.
Alongside a brand logo. And even though the brand had absolutely nothing to do with the accident, it still created a negative association for people.
Interesting. So you have to be really careful with fear.
100%.
Yeah.
You don't want to traumatize your audience.
Okay, so we've covered cool. Fear. Anything else marketers are using to subconsciously influence us?
Well, this might seem like a bit of a jump, but Lindstrom argues that religion and branding, they actually have some striking similarities.
Religion and branding, really?
Yeah, like think about it. They both offer this sense of belonging, a sense of purpose,
Mm-hmm.
even hope in a way, right?
Okay.
Both of them have these rituals, these symbols, these stories that bring people together, that give them a shared identity.
It's true. I've never thought about it like that.
And most importantly, both religion and branding, they tap into our deepest emotions, our core beliefs about the world.
Right. So how did that translate into actual marketing strategies?
Lindstrom, he did this study where he showed people images of really strong brands like Apple and Harley Davidson.
And guess what? Their brains lit up in a similar way to how they did when they saw religious imagery.
You're kidding.
Nope. The same areas of the brain associated with faith, with devotion, with meaning.
Wow. So you're saying these brands have become like secular religions.
In a way, yeah. It's about tapping into that deep-seated human need for something to believe in, for something bigger than ourselves.
So if you can make your brand represent something more than just a product, you've hit the jackpot.
Exactly.
It really is amazing how these companies have tapped into our deepest desires. It's like they're reading our minds.
Yeah.
But how do they know? How do they get this information?
Well, Lindstrom, he's got some seriously creative research methods. Like one experiment I found fascinating, it involved cigarettes.
Cigarettes.
Yeah, he was studying the power of anticipation.
Okay, so how do cigarettes and anticipation go together?
Well, think about it. What better way to study anticipation than with smokers craving a cigarette?
Right, because they really want that cigarette.
Exactly. So he used fMRI and SST to track their brain activity.
While they were smoking.
Well, not exactly. He showed them different images. Some were related to smoking, like maybe a pack of cigarettes, and some weren't.
Okay, and what happened?
Well, as you might expect, their brains, they lit up like fireworks when they saw those smoking-related images.
So the craving was real.
Oh, yeah. But here's the really interesting part. The anticipation, like just seeing those images, it triggered a huge response in the reward center of the brain. And get this, the craving was even stronger when they saw images of smoking rituals,
Rituals like what?
like lighting up a cigarette, taking a drag, things like that.
So it wasn't just the cigarette itself, it was the whole act of smoking.
Exactly. It's about the experience. Like, think about why those unboxing videos are so popular online.
Where they open up a package?
Yeah. People love that anticipation, that build up to a reward. It's incredibly powerful.
So how can marketers, harness that power?
Well, look at how Apple does it. They create all this hype around their product launches.
Right. The secrecy, the rumors.
It's marketing genius. By the time the product actually comes out, people are practically beside themselves with anticipation.
It's like they're playing on our primal instincts, our need for, instant gratification.
Precisely. And it's not just about creating hype either. It's about tapping into those deeper desires for meaning, for connection. Like Lindstrom talks about how today's consumers, we're not just looking for products, we're looking for brands that align with our values.
Right. We want our purchases to say something about who we are.
Exactly. Like, think about those yellow Live Strong wristbands.
Well, yeah, everyone had one.
They became a global phenomenon, right?
Yeah.
Raising millions of dollars for cancer research.
It was amazing.
But it went beyond just donating to a cause. It was a way for people to express themselves, to connect with others.
It was like they were buying into a movement.
Exactly. And that's the power of branding at its finest. It's about creating meaning, inspiring action, building a community around shared values.
Wow, Lindstrom's Buyology has given us so much to think about today. Any final words of wisdom for our listeners before we wrap up?
I guess I would just say this. Remember, we're not just rational beings making calculated decisions all the time. Our emotions, our subconscious desires, they play a huge role in what we buy and why we buy it.
It's all about the biology of it all.
Exactly. So as marketers, if we can understand those primal urges, those deep-seated desires for connection, for meaning, well, then we can start to create brands that really resonate with people on a deeper level.
And that's what it's all about, isn't it? Making those genuine connections. Well, on that note, I think it's time for us to wrap up this deep dive. This has been such an insightful conversation.
I agree.
Thanks for joining us, and be sure to check out Buyology, Truth and Lies About Why We Buy by Martin Lindstrom. And we'll see you next time for another deep dive into the fascinating world of well-oughts.